Back to Playwright from Zero to Hero. I'm your instructor Mahesh Patel. In this lesson, we will explore locator syntax rules. So this is our test application. Let me go to forms layout. I'll demonstrate how to use the Playwright to locate the various elements you see on this web page. So email. So this is email. This is a element, web element. This is also a web element. How we can locate, how we can automate this field, I will tell you today. We have to use different locators in order to identify our playwright and come and click on this thing and provide the input like email ID here. So how we can do it? We can use different locators. Let me go back to my code and refactor my this code whatever. So let me just use this thing. So the previous code what I have written, so we have clicked on this thing, like let me just change the URL. So I wanted to go to the local host and click on forms and forms layout. Okay, let me remove all this thing here. Okay, let me write a new test. So test, what we need, we pass two arguments. One is the name, let's say locator syntax rules, and we pass you. I already told about this async. What is async? What is page in the previous classes? Why we use page here? Everything in the previous classes. Please refer back to my previous classes. And let me use bat arrow. Okay. So let's start. As I said, in order to identify the web elements on the page, you use different locators. One such is by tag name. By tag name page dot locator. So it accepts two arguments. One is the string for the locator and an optional option. So we can, like as I said, to find by tag name, simply provide the tag name, whatever you find. So let me go back to the screen and inspect this field. So if you see, we have a tag name called input. If you want to know the DOM terminologies, why this is called or tag name, what is the ID class, these are the class values. Just refer back to my previous class, DOM terminology class. So let me use the tag name. Here I see there is a input, something called input. Let me go back to the code and use this. So input. So second one is optional. Let's ignore that for now. So this is by tag name. Now we have another locator. In order to identify the object, that is ID. So use the same thing. Page dot locator, opening and closing parenthesis, and in like IDs are always like in order to use the ID value, we always use the hash here. So if you go back to your code, so here if you see ID, so we have to use the ID value in order to identify this. So let me go back to my code, just put that thing in the code, single quotes. Okay, this is one. Let me go back. Let me tell you the other locator using by class. Okay, the how, like, in order to identify you to use the ID, we use hash, right? The same thing for the class, we use dot. Let me just copy paste this thing. So class, as I said, let me remove this is the ID, right? In order to use the class, we use dot and the class value. Since you know these are the different class values separated by space, let me use just uh, anything, something called shape rectangle. Okay, this is how we can either we can use class also to identify the object. Let's find locators by attribute. So let me just copy the same thing. Wait. So in order to find by attribute, we have to use the square brackets. Okay, so we have different attributes like placeholder, type, all of these different. Let me just use so placeholder is equal to this email, this attribute, full thing, full thing, and copy paste it in our code. Okay, we have like we can also find the elements by class, different locator which is called by class value. So we like by class value, like it's the same thing. In order to find, like we have to copy the full class value. Again, like how we did for the attribute, right? We can use the same thing here. Let me just go back and paste it here. Instead of attribute, you can just by class value, you just copy the whole thing here. Whatever you find for the class, let me just copy it here and paste in my code. Okay. We can combine different like whatever the different selectors are there, right? We can combine together and we can identify the element. So nothing but by combining and in different selectors. What I mean is like you can combine this input field and class both. You can combine these two also. Just there should not be any space when you combine. So you can combine and you can identify the elements. Like this also you can do. But make sure there is no space here. You can combine like even you can use more two or more also. Let me use this also. I can combine like this and I can identify the element. Or you can do it by XPath. I think most of you are who are on Selenium, you are familiar with this thing, but here it is not recommended. 100. Okay, how we can just in order to it's the same how we used to identify in Selenium, right? It's the same thing. It's nothing but quotes, backslash star and at sorry square bracket at ID is equal to, let me use just ID is equal to what we have to use ID uh, input email one. My bad. Okay. This is using XPath. Also by partial text match, you can do by partial text match. Let me use the same code here. Let me close. Opening and closing braces. Why partial is nothing but in order to use the partial text, just colon text and inside opening and closing parenthesis inside the code give the text. Like for example, you want to identify this using the grid. This is the text you want to identify. You want to give only the partial. Just use say using. Okay. Apart from that, you also can locate by exact text match. Text match. So here it is same like exact text match hyphen is and in like exact you want to match the exact. Just say using the grid here. Exact. Okay. Okay. Now let me try to run this thing. How we can run this thing? npx playwright test hyphen hyphen in the UI. Let me okay run this code. Okay, it will run, but it will since that we have written a lot of different locators, but we have not performed any action. It will just open the page, and it will remain in the page. Let's wait for it to complete. Okay, you see. It just opened and it is there in this page only. It didn't perform the other step. Why? Because we have not performed any actions. We have just located. Perform the action. What we have to do? We have to mention something called like click or something like that. Let's say I want to input field I use by ID and I will perform click. Since if you see the click is a like promise we have to use await. Now let me run it again. You will see if I try to run it again, it will click on the forms layout and then click on the email field. Let's wait for it to perform the action. You see, it clicked on and stayed on this email. Okay, let me summarize what we have learned. So, in order to identify the elements on the web page, you can use the locators. We have different locators, tag name, IDs, classes, attributes. We can, or like by class value, or you can combine the selectors, or by using the XPath, which is usually not recommended, or partial match and exact text match. You can use any of these locators, which are unique to avoid the errors. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we will dive into user-facing locators, a best practice in Playwright for identifying the web elements. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson. So